Thanks for tuning in, and if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, don't forget to smash that like button.
So a couple of things on tungsten grinding. I drew a couple of examples here about tungsten angle. These are typical tungsten grinding angles using a mechanical grinder like this, which is a Dremel with one of these diamond blades horizontally in there. The tungsten is inserted here and then ran against the blade, and as you spin it and the blade spins, puts a point on it. You can see that, puts a sharp point on it. That's one of these two is achieved by adjusting this angle of the input, and obviously there's different heads on this to accommodate a larger or smaller size tungsten, and then you can sharpen or de-sharpen the end of it here, blunt it if you're welding aluminum. But that's how you achieve a sharp tungsten using one of these two angles, depending on the type of metal you're welding. You can get either one of these angles. This third one that's shaped more bullet-like, kind of a round grind to it, is not ground at all. It's using chemsharp, which is often overlooked, and I wish somebody had pointed me to this when I started TIG welding. It gives a much more smooth grind, if you will, just by using chemicals. It gives you more of this shape. This is a chem sharpened. You can see it has no striations from the grinding, so it doesn't disrupt the energy flow, and it gives a nice rounded point by using the chemsharp. So I'm going to set up and sharpen one of these new tungstens using the chemsharp and show you just how easy it is to use. All right, so I've got the unsharpened tungsten set up here in the torch. You don't need gas. It does have to be tightened down, and the stick out doesn't matter at this point. In fact, the further out you are, probably easier to manage the reaction. I've got a scrap piece of steel here set up against my bench. My ground is obviously on the bench itself. And the process is going to be shorting the tungsten here, touching it to the piece, scrap piece, till it goes red hot, and then inserting it into the chemsharp. And then that's the chemical reaction that actually sharpens it. And it can be dipped several times in here till you achieve the point you want. If you want a sharper point, you put more at the tip. If you want a more tapered point, you go deeper in. And so I'm going to try and get this reaction going, and we'll see what it looks like when it's finished. So first we set here, activate the pedal, and the tungsten is heating up. You see it's getting discolored there at the tip, blue, now red. We want it to be red at least the distance that we're going to sharpen, so somewhere up in that range, and then dipping it into the chem. You can see a reaction there, and each time I re-dip it, the reaction restarts. And maybe it's not as clear as it could be, but each dip into the chem takes off a small layer of the tungsten, eating away at it. I just keep dipping in as far as I want that tip to be sharp to. You can see it sharpening up nicely there. And there's my tip. I'm going to clean this up with a little bit of sandpaper and then degrease it, if you will, to make sure it's ready for welding, and we'll take a look at how it came out. So you can see the tip is cleaned up there. Just use a little piece of Scotch-Brite or sandpaper just to clean the chem off of it. You're not trying to grind the tungsten, just to clean the chemical off of it. It gives you a nice rounded point, very even. Again, no striations from grinding because there is no grinding. And what you're left with in the chemsharp is these coral looking things that are no longer useful. These can be discarded, and the rest of the powder in here, it says it can use 500 sharpenings per jar. So I've probably only done a dozen with this piece. So that's a way to get a nice sharp tungsten if you don't have a grinder. This is way more affordable than purchasing a diamond grinder, and gives you a nice clean sharp as well.